The problem, of course, is that black women are trying to fulfill that obligation in a context where there are not enough black men who are equally committed to that project for it to work out well.
Right. Well, you say in your book, black women who marry a man of another race could bypass many of the hazards of single life, unsatisfying and non-monogamous relationships, the increased risks of sexual transmitted diseases, abortion, and single parenthood, if they were willing to marry men of other races. This is a quote from Ralph Richard Banks. He is the author of the new book, Marriage is for White People.
No, is marriage for white people?
Is marriage for white people?
That's a question.
Is marriage for white people? And someone else wrote the article, Marriage is for White People. I remember that. Yeah, is marriage for white people? Question mark. Professor Banks is also Jackson Eli Reynolds Professor of Law at Stanford Law School. He's also an expert on topics related to race and inequality. I'm going to give the number out again. We're here at 202-432-9487 or 1-800-221-9487 if you want to get in on this conversation. We are going to not leave you. Don't leave me. I'll be back in just a moment, and we'll keep talking about is marriage for white people. This is the Audrey Chapman Show on 96.3 WHUR. I'll be right back.
Live and loss of blood. Just brought to you. See website. Shows on. Visit Xfinity.com.
The Audrey Chapman owns like Washington.
Welcome back. This is Audrey Chapman. We are talking today about marriage and why so many black women are unmarried and whether they have options that they've not considered exploring. Here's another quote from the book, Is Marriage for White People, by Ralph Richard Banks. He is the author and the guest on the show today. He says, quote, despite the fact that black women are the most likely to be unmarried and the most likely to marry down, they're also the least likely to marry out. Why? Anybody out there that's got an answer to that question, please give me a call. I'm here at 202-432-9487 or 1-800-221-9487. We are talking about why it is that you keep yourself pretty much in the box, I guess influenced by society, family, friends, and the messages maybe that you've heard over and over and over again. When it is kind of interesting, I think, Rick, you are Ralph Richard Banks, but you gave me permission to call you.
Please.
That black women are more likely, given their background, their education, the professions they go in, etc., to be in places where they could date a wide variety of people.
Right. I mean, this is really the puzzle that the book spends a lot of time trying to unravel, is that black women are more successful than ever, professionally, educationally. They're thriving out in the broader world and all the largest corporations and so forth. And there are not enough black men, quite simply, in those corporations and in those professional environments for all the available black women. Yet black women are least likely. Only half or less as likely as black men, a third or less as likely as Asian Americans and Latinos to marry across the race line.
Right.
So a big puzzle is, why is that?
Right. Well, here's another question for you. Do men of other races really want to marry black women? Maybe they don't mind dating them, but what about marriage? I mean, marriage that's a whole other matter.
Right. No, that's true, and one answer is yes. Right? There are some men of other races who do not want to date black women, much less marry them. That is true. And there's data that supports that, and I review all of that in the book. But it's also the case that there are more non-black men who are interested in dating and even marrying black women than there are black women.
Right.
Because black women are, even in major cities, are a small percentage of the population relative to all the men of other races there are out there. And this is not men, this is Latinos and Asian Americans and Arabs and Africans. You can put Africans, you can all sorts of men in that box.
I ask black women if they are willing to date African men, and I sometimes get the most interesting responses from that question. And so, okay, so what's the issue there?
Right. Well, I think there is this. So part of the story is part of the story is lack of demand on the part of non-black men, but that's not the whole story because there are all these other men who are open. And then the other part of the story is that black women are especially committed to black American men. Right?
They're not especially committed to them.
And that's an irony.
It is.
That's an irony.
It bugs me.
But there is, and this is, again, there are lots of different issues here, right? But so one issue, I think, is that, black women feel, especially those who have been successful, who've been raised to, strive and to try to get ahead, they've gotten ahead.
Right.
And now that they've gotten ahead, they don't want to leave their brothers behind.
Well, that's so noble of them.
And that is noble because they
it's not working for them, though. Let me tell you.
Because they know that black men have struggled.
Right.
These are men who are in their families, right? Brothers and cousins, and they've seen these challenges, and so they want to work with black men.
Right.
And it's a noble endeavor, but ultimately there is evidence that I talk about in the book that suggests that maybe that endeavor hasn't worked so well,
right.
And in fact it might be counterproductive.
And I would say I think we're going to go to the phone lines. I think the younger sisters are finally figuring this out. I mean, I feel like just physically, I observe more younger women. Who are now open and who are dating across the racial lines. I think it is my generation and maybe the generation just before me that is still in this place of ain't doing there, ain't going there, and I'm waiting for the brothers. But the much younger sisters are starting to realize that they may wait a lifetime and it may never happen for them. They may continue to carry the torch of being the most unmarried group of people in America.
Right.
And so they're waking up to this reality. It's a painful reality because it's not what they want, but it's being, as I said, strategic and doing what the next best thing.
Right. I think you're right, but I think it's less painful for the younger generation, in part because they weren't raised in the shadow of the civil rights era.
That's right.
Sort of this, and I talk about this a lot in the book. This sort of norm of solidarity, which gave women the responsibility for sustaining the family and bringing the black man along.
That's right.
They weren't raised with that sort of ethos.
No, you go out on the weekends, if you go into some of the clubs or whatever, they're hanging out with their friends of all kinds of races.
Exactly.
And they, and they refer, and they say, what are you talking about? This is my buddy, my friend. I don't want to distinguish them because they come from a different culture than mine. So it is changing.
Yep. And I think that's a good thing. It's something that we should welcome.
Right. It was Martin's message, wasn't it?
Some would say.
All right. 202-432-9487 or 1-800-221-9487 if you want to get in on this conversation. We are concerned about what's happening to black marriage, and we are looking at the question, is marriage for white people? And we are looking at the dilemma that black women are in and how they can find their way out of it in a way that is, perhaps more acceptable to them, but perhaps more challenging. We're going to go to the phone lines and take the first person on the line. Welcome to the Audrey Chapman Show. You're on the air.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
We are fine.
Good morning.
We're having a very exciting discussion.
I see, definitely. Yeah. I was just checking everything out. I can definitely say I'm well, I don't want to say the minority, but I'm one of the exceptions to the rule as far as, being black and having a lovely African American wife who's educated just as much as I am.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay.
I'm 36. Okay. My wife is 2 years older than I am, but that's but yeah, I understand what he's saying. That marriage is marriage for white people, but I was born and raised to find that perfect woman and all that kind of good stuff, and not worry about the boundaries that she's white or she's black or anything like that. But I know your book is being absolutely real, but honestly, I would say I'm just like a black woman too. If I go to school, I work hard, I have a master's degree, and all that good stuff. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say, well, I just want to marry a black woman, or my wife just wants to marry a black man just because they say that he's black, and I'm going to, I work too hard to take care of somebody. But then again, I want to be like, I don't want to, of course I love my wife and she loves me too, but if I just had a high school education, I was working in those blue collar steel, like we are from Cleveland too, as a matter of fact, but I'm just saying, I'm not going to say I'm stepping down. So, okay, I'll just go ahead and marry this black man just because he's black and because I love him and this and that, and I'm going to help him get him to where, and I'm going to make him, wear black socks with his suit, not white socks, stuff like that. I'm not going to limit myself just to say, oh,
yeah, I always hope that people would think about the values and the character of the person. It seems to me that, and how healthy the person is. It seems to me those things are also very important.
I don't want my wife to work at all. I wish she did not work.
Right.
I'm making up to sacrifice in both of our family, and I am and both of us are, in the family aspect, and we plan to stay together, and we have a plan, and we're going to stick to the plan, and we work hard.
Right.
Work together, but I'm not going to say, and I know my wife not. I honestly know there are some black women that get, they get funky and say, oh, I'm not going to marry, I'm just going to get mine, I'm going to get mine, then I'll get married and all that kind of stuff. But I know they have needs and we have needs too, but, a man will marry any or date any race. It seems like everybody wants to be successful. So if I had to say, I've been in school 8 years, got my master's, and I'm going to get my doctorate and stuff like that, I need to top it off, to put the icing on the cake, and I have to marry me a black woman. Forget that. I love women, but I've been married to my wife for 12 years. We're staying together. We're going to make this thing work.
All righty. Well, we appreciate
white too. Thank you.
We appreciate your call.
But I'm going to check out the book, though. I'm going to go read the book.
You do get it. Is Marriage for White People?
Sure is. Thank you so much.
Okay, man. So,
how the African American marriage decline affects everybody, which I think is the subtitle is very important for people to see. It's by Ralph Richard Banks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And let me just note on that, Audrey, that the subtitle is a reference to the fact that the same trends we see among African Americans, we see a lot of them among the population at large.
Oh, sure,
so,
absolutely.
it's not just the black story. It's actually a universal story told through the black experience.
Absolutely. There are articles. The most recent one was this year in Newsweek about the marriage gap again. And every now and then they put out something like that, and they were looking at marriage declining overall.
Exactly.
In all groups.
Exactly. And one of the reasons that's happened, too, is that men aren't faring as well as they used to, and women are doing better.
Right.
And so the unions are not forming.
Right. But let me ask you, Rick, is there a market for black women amongst non-black men for dating and marrying, or is that just a nice idea, but in reality isn't really true?
No, there is. No, again, there are, lots of studies that have shown that black women are the least preferred group of partners for some white men. So that's true.
Okay.
But it's also the case that there are probably twice as many non-black men who are interested in black women as there are black women. So there's a big market out there.
So there's good news about that.
But the problem is that people don't always come together, and there are a lot of reasons for that. Just one reason is that a lot of black women don't expect to receive attention from white men in particular, say. So there may be times when someone is interested and you just miss it. The friend of mine says that if a guy comes up and asks her what time it is on the street, if he's a black guy, she thinks that he's trying to talk to her. If a white guy comes up, she thinks, he just wanted to know what time it was. And those sorts of things happen all the time.
But then